Hey boys and girls, on your choice board, you all have the option to make tiny houses or flowers for your thank you notes. And so I'm going to show you guys how to make the flowers in this video. Here's an example of kind of the finished section right here. This is what it's going to look like in just a minute. So the first thing that you need to do is get your paper laid out. If you have some painter's tape, you can make a border around the edge of it. That's a really neat thing to do with watercolor. Then you're going to need water and your watercolors. You want to really saturate your brush really well. Dip it into your paint, and then we're going to just kind of flick. So I'm just tapping a very wet paintbrush all around on this paper. Okay, now I'm going to clean it off, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a yellow. That came off really nicely. And then I'm going to do a green. The green is going to be kept down on the bottom as much as possible. And of course we know why, because it's flowers. So we'll see that here in just a second. I'm also going to add a little bit of purple. Okay, now that we have all of those colors, we're going to take our clean brush and go back in and kind of allow those to be made into our flowers. You can do one color at a time if you don't like them mixing. We can also dip back in and create some in different places. That also gives us a different color. So I'm going to go in with yellow now where there's some yellow. And these can be any shape. So just sporadically making shapes of all sorts. Now I'm going to get some purple. Oh, got those close together and they ran. So if that happens, just dab it up and it's fine. I also don't like that happened right here. So that green getting in there, I'll just dry that up and put some red over it. That one ran together. If you have time to do this a little slower than I'm demonstrating, that will help, because then your colors won't be running into each other as much. To let some things dry here and there. So then with the green, what we're going to do is just kind of create an X shape going across your page. That's going to create our grass. Make some of your grass taller and some of it small. And then what we're going to do is take a smaller brush if you have one, and then we're going to go back in with just some of that green and create some of our stems. Now, I really would suggest you letting some of this dry before doing it, or else it's just going to kind of bleed together. And for time's sake, I am letting mine kind of run into each other. And we can also create some leaves up here. That might be a great thing to do after we're finished with everything. Once this is dry, you could go back in and add in some other colors. If I do it right now, it's gonna really bleed and blend, which is okay, but just depends on what you want. Add some red into my reds. Maybe even into that purple, since they're analogous. All right, we're gonna let that dry, and then I'll show you guys the magic of that later. While that's drying, actually, let me go in and show you all. The reason that we taped this down was because in watercolors, painter's tape can create this really cool border that is, as you say, satisfying to pull off, because then we have this nice clean edge all the way around our artwork. Just pull it off carefully. And you should have a pretty cool flower garden there with an edge, a little border. Now I'm going to show you all what we're going to do in our next step that I started doing over here. I'm going to start here in this next section because this one is already dry, and you'll notice the border around it. That's where I've already pulled off its tape. Now you're going to create your own flowers, and I try to use this splatter of paint to help me decide what kind of flower or the shape of the flower. So let's look at this one right here. So this one goes in a little bit. This is kind of my darker spot, so I could just make a rough little sketch around that. That can be the center point, and then I can create the petals that go around it. Now they kind of disappear there, so I can either just act like this flower is going to cover them, or I could have created my own over that. And then you can decide if you want to fill in that center, or if you just want to add some texture there, just some little scribbles. And then we can go back in and actually darken up the edges if we want to, especially where it's going to run into another flower. So we're going to really darken it right there. And then we're going to create this next flower. Now that doesn't look like a flower, so I'm going to create my own center here. Pull this guy in. Maybe create one here. And then we'll go down here into the okay, and then once you have done that, if you want to take some a marker and create some little dots, a butterfly, bumblebee, any kind of little insect in there, you can also use the end of one of your paintbrushes and some white paint. Let me get this one here. Like this, and you could dot the center of some of those flowers, or you could create little dots in the grass or some random dots around. I don't have a lot of white paint on hand right here. Let's see if I could get it to show up a little bit better. And depending on how you really want this to look, you can decide to be as whimsical as you want. This is a very whimsical project. And then after you're finished, you can cut this into smaller pieces and create several note cards out of them, or bookmarks, something that you could send as a thank you or give to a friend, leave on a doorstep, just to show them that you're thinking of them. You could write a message on the back. and this would be a great option for something to do off your choice board. I hope you guys enjoy it.